Hello, everyone, and welcome to 100% You, a podcast which is all about discovering who you're truly meant to be and becoming the best version of yourself. I'm your host, Bari Burrell, and I've been on the self-development journey for the past 14 years and spiritual journey for the past 12 years. Today's episode is actually episode number 10, which is crazy. I've been posting every single week episodes, and I'm really glad to take you on this journey. So today's episode, we're going to talk about the one question that I've been getting every single week for the past 2-3 years. And it is, where did I get my English from? And how do I speak so well? And this episode is not necessarily about English and how I learned to speak proper English, but it's mainly about everything that you want to achieve in life and how to make it actually happen. So let's start with today's episode. So I would say that in the past 3 years, since I studied in international university, I get asked so many times where I'm from because also my name is Bari, which is not an Israeli typical name. And I do want to be honest and say, of course, I feel that my English is very good, but I still have a lot to learn and where to go and how to improve my accent and everything else. So I'm talking about the stage that I am at right now. So for the listeners who don't know me that well yet. So I study in Reichman University. I study in the international track business entrepreneurship. I finished now my third year. More than that, I try to read mainly in English. Most of my books that I buy recently in the past 2-3 years are mainly in English. I speak English every day. I start even thinking in English, and I record a podcast in English, and I try my best to post content on social media in English. And I would say that speaking English takes up a huge chunk of my everyday life right now. And just for you to understand, if you take me just a few years ago, I would say even 7, 8, 9 years ago, one of the things that I'm really proud of that I took from high school is to have proper grammar. I did not have a huge vocabulary back then. And basically, I felt ignorant every time that people spoke English because I could not understand half of the things that I was listening. It was really hard for me to actually have conversation. And more than that, and I think that's like the most important thing, when you learn new languages, most of the time, you don't feel yourself, 100% yourself. And I didn't felt myself when I spoke English for a very long time. I feel like I start to feel myself when I spoke English only the past 5 years, 5, 6 years. And this is, I believe, one of the most important things, because if you cannot express yourself fully the way you want to be seen in the world, in the language you're speaking, that's a huge problem, no matter what language you're speaking. I speak Hebrew, Russian, and English, and now I try to learn Spanish. But when you learn a language and you cannot express yourself fully the way you would like to be, that's also a lot of miscommunication, because eventually when you speak a language, you want to express something, you want to talk, to communicate with a person. So language is just one thing, but there's so many other things that comes along with a language in order for you to feel yourself when you speak. And also, if we take it to a different direction, no matter what goal you have in your life, if you want to be a writer, if you want to be a content creator, whatever, to be fully yourself when you do this goal, that's eventually the final goal, to feel fully yourself, expressing yourself the way you feel yourself, 100% you. That's eventually the final goal, no matter what goal you're going to look at. I want to take you just 10 years ago so you understand a bit about how I started learning English. But at the end, you will realize there is just a few simple rules that you need to follow eventually in order to achieve everything that you want, every goal that you want, especially when it comes to learning new language. So growing up, I was always very good at English at school, because I learned, I think I talked about it in one of the episodes, but I had school after school. I had twice a week. It was like Russian school after my regular school. So we also learned their English, and it was much higher level than my normal school, because it was like Russians, and they study much more advanced than the Israelis. So growing up, I had great base of grammar and all of that kind of stuff with English. So with exams, I was very good. However, when I tried to speak, I could not speak at all, and I could not understand. I was used to read text and books, and I used to struggle so much. And the first time that I actually was able to speak English was when I was 16. It was exactly at 16 because I had my birthday when I flew there. At 16, I flew to camp in Canada, which is something my father wanted to do my entire childhood, and I always didn't want to do it because I felt that I cannot speak English. I'm afraid, I'm shy, and all of that. But 16 was the last age I could go before being a counselor in the camp. So I went there for 1 month, and I remember when we just landed to Canada, I flew actually with my cousin because it was a camp that most of my cousins flew there every year. And when we landed in Canada, I remember I was so confused with the languages because I spoke Hebrew and Russian, and back then I learned French in high school. Yeah, I cannot speak French. I can read, I can understand, but I cannot speak. And that's also a thing because it's not such a strong goal that I have right now to learn French. I don't have a reason to learn French currently, at least. So when we landed and the counselors came to take us to the camp, I remember I freaked out from the language, and everything they asked me, I was just like, yes, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And they asked me questions that I need to elaborate, open questions and open-ended questions. And I just couldn't speak because it was my first time speaking English. So I was in the camp for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it was 1 month, yeah. And I think that only after 1 week I start to speak. Unfortunately, only after 3 weeks I actually started to make sentences make sense. Before that, I tried to speak, but it was really hard for me. I could not understand everything that the people around me were talking about. So that was a big thing for me, and I didn't felt myself at all because I could not express myself. I was so shy. And usually when I get to know people, I'm not shy. I'm the loud person in the room probably, and most friendly, I would say. So I just jumped into the water, and I had nothing else to do rather than to speak English because I had no phones. It was a camp. And I also decided something very smart when I look at it now. At the beginning, they put me and my cousin together at the same cabin. And I thought, I really love my cousin. I told her, listen, I want to just jump into the water and be alone, and get to know new people. So I asked that they will separate us. So I so happy I did it because it actually made me speak with the people there and not just be around the Israelis and my cousin. So I jumped into the water and I had no other choice but to speak English. So that was the first encounter with English. Of course, as I said, my English definitely wasn't perfect after it. I just could start saying complete sentences by the end of this month. Then when I got back to Israel, I wanted to try to keep the English, so I started reading magazines in English. Again, it didn't last long because, it's just reading and that's it. And then I would say my second big encounter with English was when I was soldier and I was around 20 years old and I went to Birthright as a soldier. So Birthright is basically a free trip to Israel for every Jewish person in this planet, basically, that he or she can do for free. And they come here for 10 days, 7 days, something like that. And usually to each group, there is 4 or 5 soldiers that join them for at least half of the time. So I was one of the soldiers and I was with American group. So that was my second encounter with English because I had no choice but to speak English because I was a soldier there and I had to speak with the Americans. And because I had the encounter before with English, I was a bit more comfortable just speaking. I still did not understand everything. I still didn't felt like I can be fully myself, but being with them for 7 days, yeah, I think it was 7 days, 7 days or 5 days, made me just, and be with them for 24/7, made me just speak a bit better than before I went to this trip. More than that, I tried to keep in touch with the people there. And one of my good friends I met in Birthright and we kept in touch and I tried to practice my English more and more and more. After that, I would say, and also around that time, I dated also a few international people that came to Israel. So, when you date someone, you have to speak with them. So the language we were speaking was English. and most of them were native English speakers. So it made me learn English much better because they were patient with me and they understood that my English is not so well. And actually me being honest about it, and for I say they because, it was a few different people across like a few years. It made me feel more comfortable speaking English and just talk about topics that I was afraid to talk about because I didn't know if I can speak about those topics. Like I remember one person, a Canadian guy I dated when I was 20 or 19, and we dated for like 1 month, and he talked a lot about politics with me. And even if we were speaking about politics in Hebrew, I don't know if I could speak about politics back then, especially. But he was so patient with me, and he was like, no, I want you to learn to speak properly in English, because he understood also Hebrew. But we tried to speak English, and he actually just stopped. Every time he spoke about something, he just stopped and like explained me certain words, because I was so curious to learn new words, new language. And when I communicated that I'm afraid of speaking about this topic because I don't know this vocabulary and I don't feel good about it and whatever, and him being patient with me actually really helped me to feel comfortable also speaking about politics in English, which I definitely did not have the vocabulary, but I tried to speak about it and I jumped into the water and did it. Then I flew after the army for 1 month for Europe, and also then I flew with my cousin, and we met many people from all around the world. And at the beginning we also slept in hostels for a few times, which was really fun. So we met many people for each destination we met several people, and of course we had to speak English. So that was the third or fourth encounter that I have had with English. So I had many encounters. I will not go to everything now, but I had many encounters with English, and I just knew that I have to talk English and jump into the water. And later on, also, this is something important actually. When I was 21, I worked at sales, and when I was 22, I worked at a high-tech company in sales. And now when I look back, I don't know how they accepted me, because my English wasn't good at all back then, okay? I feel like was the time when I actually went deep down in learning English properly. The entire job was talking to Americans or to Europeans and to Canadian people, writing tons of emails every day, speak with them on the phone, have Zoom meetings, and my English was fine, but I still could not express myself properly. The product that I sold was very complicated. It was very technical. It was also hard to explain it in Hebrew. So in English, it was like crazy mission to go to and do it. But I understood that because I had this many encounters with English, I was like, okay, I just need to jump into the water and start swim. So that's what I did the first 1 month, 2 months even. All I was doing, and this is a really good tip, all I was doing is to write the language and vocabulary that I need to use. Because eventually when you have, the connecting words and you have the simple vocabulary that, you speak in everyday English, in order to speak in different topics and different domains and industries, you just need to learn their vocabulary. So what I did in this high-tech company, I basically learned the entire vocabulary of this industry, which was technology, I was selling basically a software that helping companies to make their website accessible for people with disabilities. So I needed to learn the entire vocabulary of people with disabilities, accessibility, like all of that stuff, which at the beginning, I remember I just entered to the website of the company, and I looked at it and I saw literally black because I could not read anything. It was such hard and advanced English for me. But I took it as a project for 1 to 2 months just to learn the entire vocabulary of this industry. And once I did it, my English improved significantly because I learned the base of this industry, and it made just so much sense. So I learned the base of this industry, and at the same time, I was jumping into the water and having conversations with people. I thought I knew that I don't really know how to speak, but I just jumped into the water every single day. So it strengthened my ability to speak English. Also, I was writing emails, really long emails, short emails, sequences, follow-ups, like sales and marketing emails. We didn't had ChatGPT back then, so I was actually writing the emails. I did had Grammarly, but nothing more than that. So I jumped into the water, and I just knew that this is one industry that I need to learn the vocabulary. And at the end of this job, I wanted to go and I did real estate investments. So I did the same. I did not have the vocabulary of real estate investments. So I learned it for 1, 2, 3 months, talked about it every day, listened to podcasts about it every single day, read books about it until I felt comfortable to speak about investments, real estate, about money in English. Now I study business entrepreneurship in university, so it's kind of the same. At the beginning, I remember I entered to the website of the university in English. Although I worked in sales in high-tech company in English and did real estate investments, still, when I looked at the website of the university school, I looked at it and I did not understand half of the stuff because I needed to learn the vocabulary. So this is what I did when I started learning at university. So first semester, I was sitting with Google Translate and literally translating everything. And at some point after like one semester, I had the entire vocabulary of entrepreneurship, of business, of marketing, everything related to this. Also, at the same time, I used to jump into the water and speak every day English because, eventually my friends from university, I speak with most of them, English. Also, at the same time, I started reading books in English. Today, I try to read only in English because my entire vocabulary of the business world and entrepreneurship is in English. Like when I read it in Hebrew, it just doesn't fit in my brain. So my entire vocabulary in those areas in English now. Also in real estate, also technology, because I program my mind to learn this industry in this language. So now let's go to the practical stuff. I want to just give you an understanding of what I did. And eventually, if we looked at all of the things, and I understand not everyone has opportunities to speak English all of the time, but if we take myself back, just when I was a little girl, since forever, I knew that I want to have international career. Since a very young age, I knew that when I was really young, I want to be famous. I want to be a singer. I want to be an actress. That was like I want to be a model. That was like my dreams when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. So I knew that in order to be really famous and be successful internationally, although, today my goals are completely different, but in order to be international figure, I knew that I must know English right. And, my goals changed during the years, but I always had the vision of who is the best version of Bari and who do I want to be when I'll grow up and what kind of version of myself I want to be. And English was always part of it, always. And since a very young age, even when I had really bad English, I tried to work on my accent since a very young age, because even when I had the most horrible English, because I knew that if I want to succeed internationally, I must know how to speak proper English, have a proper accent and whatever, Still, I have a lot to improve in when it comes to my accent, but my accent is pretty good, like if we'll be honest for a second. So since I had this vision from a very young age that this is what I want to do in life, to have a really good English, every opportunity that I had to speak English, I took it and I jumped into the water. And here's where I feel most people are missing it. I had so many conversations with people where they wanted something. I remember I had a conversation with a good friend and he wanted to do content about AI. And I just told him, why don't you just start and create content, even if it's like once in a while, but just try and test it and see how it feels for you. And he said, no. When I'll do it, I'll do it. And, it's been a year from now. I don't know if he will ever do it. And maybe he will. And I'm sure he will be successful because he's like the type of person who's like, no matter what he's doing, he's doing good. But the mindset of if I have a goal or want to do something, if I have opportunity or like I have something that I can practice on, or I have this insight that I want to just do or post or whatever, you should jump into the water and do it. The first time forever will be hard. And I also had it with a friend that wanted to learn English. She tried to avoid situations where she could speak English. Why? Because she said my English is not perfect yet. And she avoided many situations of trying to speak English, and she gave different people to speak instead of her. And eventually she used to tell me, no, I want to learn like 1 year proper English, and only after I learn the English and I'll have the course or whatever, I'll feel comfortable speaking English. And that's a huge lie. And why is it a lie? Because My English improved once I started speaking English and jump into the water. Every situation I had. Maybe a tourist stopped me on the street and asked me what is the current time. So I started having 2 minutes conversation with him. That was jump into the water and talk to that person. But the learning stuff of going to school, study courses, whatever, that gave me only the grammar. It didn't give me the vocabulary. It did not give me the confidence to speak. It did not give me feeling myself 100% when I speak English and express myself, but only jump into the water. And this is what most people's afraid of. And this is what most people are missing. I hear so many people want to learn English and they're just waiting for the right time to learn proper English, to go someday and do this course or to read this book, and they feel that will help them. But that's exactly the problem. If you will forever think that the course you want to take or the book you're going to read will help you together, yeah, maybe it will help you, but eventually you just keep postponing to achieve this goal. And again, we can make it parallel. And again, we can compare it to any other thing or goal you have in your life. If you'll just depend on like, I want to take a course, I want to do this, or like you will say, no, my English is just so bad and I can never learn English because I don't know, I'm 30, I'm 40. That's a huge lie. The only thing you need to do is just find the small situations you can jump into the water and talk English. And you can go to rooms with people who speak English and just try to talk to them. No one cares because, everyone knows just a few languages and people respect, and most of the people actually very compassionate about with people who try to learn new language. Eventually, I want to just give you the entire introduction so you will understand that all you have to do is just find the opportunity, be open for the opportunities. Okay, no, you know what? I'll give you just some steps so it will make sense for you. First, define the version of you that you want to become. Okay? That's it. That's so simple. Define the version of you that you want to become. If this version speaks fluent English, okay, amazing. So you have that in your mind. This is what you want to do to become. The second thing you should do is be open to practice this identity of yours every single day. If you have opportunity to practice this identity of yours, jump into the water and do it. If you want to be a content creator with millions of followers, but you don't really create content because you're waiting for the time that you'll have more time to do it. You will do this course, you will finish this work, you'll finish that. You're just keep postponing this identity, and you can start to build this identity right now because eventually you need to feel comfortable in this identity. If you want to become a content creator with millions of followers, you need to be comfortable with producing one video. And producing one video, you can do it, you can even I started creating content when I was 17, 18. Still, I don't have perfect content, but it took me time to feel comfortable speaking in front of a camera. And I'm so glad I did it, even before I wanted to be content creator or doing a podcast or whatever, because I had a vision of my identity. And I'll go back to the English. So I had, let's say, camp, okay, that my father sent me to Canada. Of course, it's an amazing opportunity and whatever, but I'm telling you, like at the beginning, I didn't want to go there. Why? Because I was so freaking out about the English. For 1 month to speak English, to be alone in a completely different continent, like it felt scary. But eventually what changed my mind was like, what version of Bari do I want to be in 10 years from now? And I knew that English is part of it. So that was one of the reasons why I eventually went there. And the same thing with any other opportunity I had to speak English or to do whatever. Also work in a high-tech company in English when my English was awful. And again, I have no clue how they accepted me, and I'm so glad they accepted me. But I just had a vision of who I want to become, and I knew that it's possible. I just knew it's going to take of me a lot of work and a lot of feeling uncomfortable at the beginning. And that's it. Also now, today, as I said, I'm at the third year at university, and I decided that my entire third year I will devote to diplomacy. So I joined debate club, I joined Model UN, I joined the diplomacy club and all that stuff. It's in university. And I don't have the vocabulary at all now of everything related to government and diplomacy and politics. So I can tell you that for the first 1 month, I felt so ignorant. I would say even 2 months. I felt confident only this week was the first time that I was like, okay, I got it. I got it. And I still don't have the entire vocabulary for sure. I need to learn more. And I know that at the end of this year, I will have also the vocabulary of speaking English when it comes to politics, when it comes to diplomacy, when it comes to, all of this field. But in every industry you're gonna go, you just, no matter what language or whatever you want to do, you will need to learn the basics. And the basic, it's the vocabulary of this industry, and jump into the water as many times as you can, even though you're gonna feel so stupid and so ignorant. But that's the only way to learn. If you're gonna keep reading books and keep this and that, maybe you will know and you understand when people speaking, but only when you start speaking and start speaking again and again and every day, that's the only way to feel comfortable in that language, to speak fluently in that language. And and also I can tell you that since I started this podcast, I'm not kidding you, I feel that my English improved significantly, because it was the first time that I had 1 hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And, if we accumulate everything till now, I had, maybe 10 or more hours that I just spoke in front of a camera in English. So that gave me a lot of confidence now speaking English, because I realized I can do it. And in your everyday situation, sometimes it feels very scary to just talk because you're afraid of doing a mistake. You maybe want to use certain words that you heard someone else saying, but you're afraid that it sounds stupid, or you're afraid it's going to sound weird, or it's not the right word to use in the sentence. But eventually, no one cares. Just speak. And I'm telling you, I made so many mistakes, and I always tell people around me, correct me if I'm saying something wrong in terms of grammar, in terms of vocabulary. If I use the wrong word, just please tell me. Also with the podcast, if I'm doing something wrong, tell me. I'd love to learn how to improve. So summarize it, define your version that you want to become. The second thing is, every opportunity you have to become that version, take it and jump into the water. That's it. And the third thing is consistency. Just keep repeating this loop, because then it will be easier to jump into the water each and every time. And then you can go and expand your vocabulary, expand your knowledge about certain goal. If you want to be a content creator, or I don't know, you want to run marathon or whatever, you just need to keep jumping into the water, and every time set a new goal. So I want to speak fluently in the real estate industry, then I want in the marketing industry, then I want in politics, then I want in blah, 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 blah. But each and every time, understand what is the highest version of yourself. Be open for it each and every day to jump into the water and become that identity. Because if you want to be fluent in English, you will not stop yourself from speaking every time that you can, because again, that's the only way to learn. And the third thing, just consistency, and keep repeating this loop. And that's it. That was, I think one of the most simple episodes I had, but I just wanted to give you a background a bit, because I was not speaking fluently just 5 years ago. I still have a long way to go, but the one thing that people is missing, that you just have to do the work, and the work is jump into the water and do whatever you need to do. That's it. No matter how scary it is, no matter how stupid you feel. I hope you took something from this episode, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.